All right. How's everyone doing? Can we hear? Yep, we can hear. Is that a good volume? Hey, Start Engine, it's good to see you. I hope everything's going well for you. Oops. 1 second, there might be a little bit of mic noise. I need like a mute button. All right, there we go. Get a little bit better of a height. All right. All right. Okay, so welcome. Hello, everyone. All right, so I didn't stream yesterday, but I am going to stream tomorrow morning because I found out I have it off work anyhow. I'm going to get a little work done anyhow, but I'm going to stream tomorrow morning just a little bit, and we're going to go over some of the work that I still need to do. Hopefully, not show off how bad I am at Python, but it's a time to hang out. The links to the streams are in there. I'm just streaming on my personal Twitch channel and a personal YouTube channel that I made. Um, are we getting a guest appearance today? Why would we have a? Did I promise a guest appearance? Did I do that? Did I did I say that? Or are you just trolling me? I would actually love it if somebody wanted to do this show with me. I think having somebody that had a different perspective on it to also talk about the things would be fantastic. So if there's somebody out there that would like to, oh, there's a chair here. That's why. I'll push that out of the way. That's my work chair. That's my imaginary friend Bob sits there. All right, there we go. Now it's out of the way. Okay. So, anyways, yep. Tomorrow morning, roughly 10:30. I'm gonna tweet out when I go live, but roughly 10:30 I'll be going live. So join me. We're gonna work on the null cloud. I have some Rust I need to write for it. I want to do a multi deployment on Linode or DigitalOcean. I don't know, which would you guys prefer to see, where basically the cloud that I run here in my basement also runs in another cloud, and that way I have failover. It will be fun to do. And yeah, some Discord bot and probably some Python. Anyways, we'll have something fun tomorrow morning, so join me if you want to. Let's get into the news. Yeah. We'll start with security, like usual. And then we'll jump into the cloud news because there's actually a lot of stuff from the cloud. We have stuff all the way from, now I'm blanking on their name, Cloudflare, as well as some GitHub updates that I think are really important. And so we'll be touching base on those and talking about how they'll affect you just a little. All right. That being said, let's talk about our open source projects. I know I said I would do that at the beginning to try to get a little bit more involvement from you all. Next week, we're not doing a open source. We'll talk about some open source things, but I'm not doing a curated list of open source topics. Just taking a little bit of a break from it this week. So, anyways, just gonna throw that out. We'll pick it up again next week. All right. So this week, what we are covering is like your most favorite Rust library or app. So we'll get into that. Let's talk about security because security, there was a pretty bad week in security, to be honest. There was a couple things. So if you followed my live streams, which have been kind of bad, to be honest, not great live streams because I'm just goofing off, hanging out, and learning Python. Python's so difficult. Anyways, I installed PyTorch and have actually started using PyTorch. And the week that I do, PyTorch is poisoned in a software supply chain attack. The week that I do. The week that I. So, if you downloaded PyTorch nightly on Linux via pip between December 25th and December 30th, you've got trouble. Now, thankfully for me, I actually did it later than that, and I wasn't on the nightly release, so I'm in the clear. But if that's you, you better read this article. So, if you just downloaded PyTorch in December from the nightly, check this out. again, this is where supply chain is so important, and it's one of the things that we've done a really bad job of securing. So, yeah, I don't know. I can't. It's a hard problem. It really is a hard problem. All right, experts detail Chromium browser security flaw, putting confidential data at risk. Now, I actually read this, and there is this there is a patch to the severity, but they could actually siphon off confidential files from you. So I think the reason it only got medium versus high, because my gut reaction when somebody could steal information from you is that it's a high. But it was limited to certain files on your file system, but it was still pretty bad. But there's a patch for it, so you should update. Kubernetes cluster hacked in a malware campaign via Postgres. I found this to be particularly interesting because this was done through the Microsoft Defender for Cloud Telemetry. And it was a remote code execution. So, anyways, just because you're in containers doesn't mean that you're necessarily safe from. Just because you're using containers doesn't mean that you. It's just another layer of security, because containers are just isolation around your process. So just remember that. Security vulnerabilities in major car brands revealed. I found this. This was done by Malwarebytes Labs. There was a lot of. This was not like an isolated, like, oh, Ford has a problem, or oh, X. So there was a big study done, and in it was Kia, Honda, Infiniti, Nissan, Acura, Mercedes-Benz, Hyundai, Genesis, BMW, Rolls-Royce, Ferrari, Ford, Riviera? I've never even heard of that. Porsche, Toyota, Jaguar, Land Rover, Sirius XM. Interesting. I didn't actually see Tesla on this list. I would have expected Tesla because they have like so much more software to be on this list, but I didn't see it on the list. Anyways, I think this is a problem that we also have not addressed yet. Like all of our infrastructure too. So maybe a little scary. Maybe a little scary. On the brighter side, Auth0 came to the rescue and saved us from the. You know what JWTs are, the JSON Web Token, which we all use quite a bit. The vulnerability of this SVE, they came to the fix and fixed it December 21st. So they stepped in, they did what needed to be done, and did it. This was actually a remote code execution vulnerability, so it was a pretty bad situation. And yeah, this was awesome that they came to fix it. But yeah, also everybody uses JWTs, so like. This is actually not the first time that a antivirus product has been used to load malware. There have been other cases of this. Although I would also argue that antiviruses in general tend to act like malware sometimes as well. I'm looking at you, McAfee. Do not let McAfee around yours. All right. So, anyways, yep. So this token, it was a bad thing. The JWT. There's a couple articles on it here that I read. Yep. All right. On to something I talked about. I talked about this last week, but there was less information last week, and I think I think I still agree with Circle CI on how they dealt with this. Because I did praise them some, but it seems that they suffered a total credential compromise. Basically, their systems were completely compromised. This is a little bit worse than what I had initially realized, and I wanted to share that with you all because this is this is very bad. Very bad. It's not as bad as what we're going to get into, because if you're wanting to talk about password managers, we're going to talk about LastPass again a little bit more, because I've already knocked them on how they dealt with it. But as things have unveiled, LastPass is much worse. Much worse. Anyways. So it's pretty bad, and if you're using Circle CI, you need to read this. You need to get up to date. You need to understand what you need to do to secure your own pipelines at this point. So yeah, just wanting to point that out. It is very bad. Worse than I think it's worse than what they originally thought it was. Then they have been doing a really good job of keeping everybody up to date with what is going on. So again, I think good job on their part, but yeah, it's pretty rough. All right. How a single developer dropped AWS costs by 90% and then disappeared. You might be wondering why this is in security. I found this to be a extremely interesting security issue. Basically, this company had big AWS costs, around $120,000 a month, and they had this person that said, "Hey, give me $50,000 if I can drop your costs." And they were like, "Okay, well, we'll do that," because it was pretty low risk. If you don't drop our costs, we pay you nothing. If you do drop our costs, it's well worth the $50,000. So basically, the person came in and dropped their cost by $100,000. So instead of $120,000, they went to $20,000. But this company doesn't really. It was machine learning some AI models. But it wasn't a tech company, and they didn't actually really know about the software that this person was writing. And basically what happened was this person was writing things that went through Google accounts and made like free Google accounts, and were training the models on free Google accounts. And so eventually, about 6 months after they paid this person $50,000, their costs started to escalate again, because what would happen is, as soon as they were failing to do it on Google free accounts, it would just go back to the AWS account that they paid for, and start training those models there. And so they saved a little bit of money for some amount of time, but also broke a lot of terms of services. So this is a good way to get your company barred from using those services if you're actually abusing the service like that. So I bring it up because you need to make sure that you're not doing something like this. And this is probably a good, just like you never want to just hire some random person to do something. You want to build that relationship. You want to bring on as an employee, and you want to do it right. If you're going to have code that's supported, you want to have an engineer that knows. Even if you bring on external services to help, you want to be internally reviewing that code that is published, that is developed and deployed, because you as a company, in the end, are responsible for what that code does if you're running it. So, anyways, you can read more about it. That was the brief overview. This goes back to just security at a base level. So, our great AI overlords, got tricked into suggesting malicious code. I think this is one of the things. I have been using some of these AI code generators, and this is one of the things that I can say about them, is that you need to be a good developer to use them. I actually think that it would hurt you to use them as a junior or maybe even non-junior engineer. And really, the only people at this point that could leverage them appropriately are your senior engineers, are the people that could write the code that they're using the AI to write anyways. Because those people can leverage. They also know if the AI is giving them good code as well, and it's using it to accelerate your code. What I have found out is if you just blindly use the AI, very quickly you get a mess of code that is almost impossible to maintain or add features to or debug. That's been my features. Now, it can do some amazing things. It can also do some amazingly horrifying things. This might be a case to move on-prem for ML training. It might be. One of the hard parts is, and I think that this is maybe even it goes beyond on-prem. It's where do you get your data? So when you're training a big ML model, let's talk about ChatGPT. When you're training something of that magnitude, of that size, you have to be just consuming as much data as you can get. You can't generate enough data for that. So it's like, yeah, it's a supply chain attack, and it's a very difficult one because it's not necessarily like, oh, I use this open source project and I have to make sure that that build pipeline is secure. It's actually going beyond that. It's going past that, in that now if we're talking about these open source, there's several open source ones for sounds, for text and whatnot, but they have a lot of people that contribute data to that. That data could be bad, and you could be tricking it in. Anyways, so yeah, this was a poisoning attack on it, and these are things that we're gonna have to be watching out for AI. Also, welcome, Raj. I'm just gonna call you Raj, because that is something I can say without completely making a fool of myself. Welcome, and thanks for joining. It's nice to have you on. All right. Now, I said the password managers got worse. Let's talk about that. There was another attack. Oh, wait. We're still talking about AI. One second. AI right now is good for greenfield prototyping work. I don't think that it can add features to a pre-existing code base. Maybe good for writing brand new microservices serverless. Maybe you should use it tomorrow for writing Python. You're commenting on how bad my Python is. I'm not even offended. My Python is that bad. Yeah, actually, I'll use it on stream. I have actually a couple of them that I test and play around with. So I'll let you guys pick which one you want to use, whether it's Tab 9 or Copilot or Code Whisperer. I haven't set up any of them on my new Linux machine, so we'll set up one of them and we'll use it. Whichever one, whoever joins me for stream, will get to pick, and we'll set that one up so you guys can see the setup process. They're not hard to set up, honestly. Yeah. So we'll do that. And yeah, we'll use them. I'd love to use them on stream. We can talk about them on stream. And I am working on making a video. I said hopefully by the end of January. It's not going to be the end of January. It's going to be like the end of February. And, I really do like to use these things and not just make the fast. Really, I don't YouTube well, because the YouTubers that do it well release the video the day of with some just quick reaction to it because everybody wants to see it. And I'm the person that was like, well, I used my MacBook Pro for 6 months before I made a video on it. Yeah, doesn't get the views. Have I used ChatGPT yet? So I use ChatGPT all the time. You can ask people at work. I use ChatGPT all the time. I find it to be one of the most fun things I do in my workday. I ask it all sorts of insane questions. Yesterday, I asked it what I could do to make it have be a better cook, because I asked it to cook something for me. It said that it couldn't, because it couldn't interact with the physical world, and I said that was so sad, and they said it's not really sad. It was a fantastic conversation I had with it, because I generally go through the world of insanity with it. I tried to ask it to help me create time travel. It pretty much said no politely. It's very polite, by the way. I asked for it to be a little bit more condescending with me, and it said that it couldn't. So, anyways, absolutely, I'll have it pulled up for the live stream so we can ask it problems and see how it deals with them. But yeah. So yeah, we'll go with it. Join me for a stream tomorrow. We'll have fun. That's the whole point of it. Have fun, experiment with things, and hopefully get some of the work that I need to get done. Actually, if you want to see, I actually have the work here. I have a bunch of work already put out there. We have the Discord bot that we're making. We have the Linode and DigitalOcean and Auth0 integrations and containers as a service. If you see this is for the null cloud. So we have stuff to do with that, and we have stuff with our machine learning to do. So this is public. You can all see this. It's public at this link here. I'll actually just drop this in chat. That's the work we'll do. It's fun. Anyways, let's get on with the rest of the stream. Oh, you know what? I should ask it about my network problem, because one interesting problem here is that I had it happen to me again, Russell. Now, I can't reproduce it, but I had it happen to me again, but it hasn't happened again since that. It just happened once, oddly. So it's probably just that it's not perfectly fixed, it's just kind of fixed. All right, let's move on to password managers. Yeah, let's move on to password managers, because the news of password managers has gotten a little bit worse. Norton Password Manager hacked, and it has been warning people about the breaches. Now, as far as the complete blast radius, I didn't get to dive into this as much as I would have liked to, so I can't tell you as much. I didn't even know Norton had a password manager. But as far as much as I know, it involved names, addresses, and encrypted password data vaults. Now, what I'm going to point out later on is these password vaults are just a delay feature. So it doesn't mean that you're safe or impervious. It means that you have time. And what we're going to get into, and what makes the LastPass breach so much worse, is how good those encryptions are. All right. So this is a timeline of events for the LastPass catastrophe. Honestly, I think I would go out and say that I would never use LastPass at this point. Not because they had a breach. Breaches happen. But how they have handled it. And even weeks ago, I recommended everyone change all their passwords if they use LastPass. And LastPass has still not come out and ahead of this and said that you need to change your passwords. So, you know, mistakes happen, and it's how we deal with them that makes us good people. I'll make mistakes, and I'll have to come out and apologize to you guys. And that's okay, but it's how you handle them, how you come out ahead of them. And this is where LastPass has proven, at least to me from what I've seen so far, not to be that trustworthy person that you want to. So we have the August 22 breach. We go into August, and November 30th is really where it says certain elements of the customer information have been accessed. So it's not until November when they even start to say that there was, in the August, all that I ever saw was them saying that some of their source code had been gotten. Then it was hitting in December where they revised their even November ones to say that some sensitive customer data had been accessed as well. Now, I don't know if this person exposed misleading claims, because I also kind of hinted at that it felt misleading to me. But this is what I want to focus on. This I hadn't seen until this last week. 1Password claims that most LastPass vaults could theoretically be cracked with a mere $100 computing power. They're talking about like a Jetson, a small little GPU. Yeah, a small little thing could crack most of them. And then it goes on that many listeners of this guy's podcast only had one hashing iteration in their LastPass vaults. This means that most people, the people capable of stealing passwords and hacking them, almost instantly had your passwords probably as well. So anyways, that's kind of the now, obviously, 1Password is a competitor. So how much credence do I give to 1Password dunking on their competitor? Not much, because they're going to do that and they're going to try to make it sound as bad as possible. $100 of computer. I don't know a $100 computer except for the Jetson. I actually looked for it. So this seems oddly specific, because if it was a Raspberry Pi, you would say a Raspberry Pi could do it, but that's not $100. So it's a weird number to be honest. I thankfully have used Bitwarden. I'm not saying that Bitwarden won't get hacked. It's how they deal with it. So anyways, it just got worse. It just got worse. That's all I wanted to point out. Last thing, I found this to be talking worthy. Now, we're not really using RTU devices, and we don't talk about, we're the cloud. These are really industrial devices that connect to industrial equipment. But a hacking group has successfully attacked these devices, which really is quite. This is a first. This is a first for the industry. This is a first for these types of things. And so pretty much what it means is now you're able to, your industrial control systems are vulnerable. And so it means a whole new industry has a whole new set of problems that they need to work and look at. Again, I don't know a whole lot on this industry. I do know some of the industrial controls, where your big CNC machines and things like that. But I also, that's where my knowledge stops. I just wanted to point it out that, it's one of the first to be done. So, all right. So that's it for our security. If you've liked it so far, if you don't mind, go ahead, hit that like button, follow, subscribe, whatever you do, whatever makes you happy. I have actually never run the Rust Bitwarden server. I actually pay Bitwarden for mine because I like their product and I want to support it. I don't actually use any of the paid features. It's cheap enough. I think it's like $1 a month or something. Like I don't know. It's not very much. But yeah, I wanna support them doing what they're doing. So. All right, let's get into cloud news. We have stuff from HashiCorp, Terraform. We have stuff from AWS to GCP, Azure, Cloudflare. We have quite a bit of stuff to cover, so we're going to jump into it. All right, the Terraform plugin framework was released. This is basically the SDK v3. So if you're using the Terraform plugin SDK version 2, really you should start to look, or at least in my opinion, which maybe my opinion doesn't, I don't use Terraform a whole lot. I use it a little, do a little stuff with it, but not a ton. The Null Cloud doesn't use Terraform at all. It has been released. So if you do write a plugin, I would look at putting it as part of your roadmap to upgrade to the new Terraform plugin framework. It has some pretty huge improvements from my understanding of it. So it's definitely something that you should be checking out and seeing how it can really help you. I don't think that there's a rush. My understanding is Terraform is going to continue supporting SDK v2 for the foreseeable future. They have a which SDK should I use little questionnaire here. If you're wondering, I will link this in the description of this video if you're wanting to check it out yourself. But yeah, as far as I know, I think that everybody should eventually probably move, but you probably have a lot of time. And if you're greenfield, if you're new, I would say definitely right away start moving over, or just make your new project with the framework plugin. That's the way to go in the future. But if you have a lot of code, I would say put it on your roadmap for the next year or two. Unless if there's that feature that you just absolutely need to have, then of course you got to move to it. All right. Let's move to AWS. I wanted to point this out. So Amazon is laying off 18,000 layoffs. Is laying off layoffs. That's not the right English. They're laying off 18,000 people. But there's been a question that we've been asking, and that question is how many engineers are actually being laid off when these things happen. So you watch these tech layoffs, and the thing that they don't release or relinquish is how many of those are technical people. That's our industry, and so I try to keep an eye on that. One thing that I see from this, AWS is not impacted by Amazon's 18,000 layoffs. What I see from that, what I read into that is engineers really still aren't being let go. They're releasing salespeople, and you can see that in some other companies where it is the sales team that had them, or the business side of things. So as far as I've seen, still hiring, while they still remain in a hiring freeze, it doesn't seem that they're laying off the engineers. At least reading into this. This is my speculation. Please don't say this is truth. I don't have any insider information into anything. Well, we should go to AWS news. That was kind of out of order. So we'll just go into AWS news. AWS really has hit the ground in January running. They have some pretty cool things in the pipeline. And honestly, this is our first week where everybody reported something to report. SageMaker Canvas announces up to 3 times faster ML model training. 3 times is a huge leap. Huge leap. Think if it took an hour, or let's say it took 3 days. Now that's a lot faster, which is going to actually save you a lot of money. So this is awesome. It also allows you to iterate more and a lot quicker. So I think if you're using SageMaker, which is their machine learning kind of thing, it's really, really powerful. With improved performance optimization, quick build models are now up to 3 times faster, and standard build models are 2 times faster than previous run. With faster building times, you can now generate a quick build model in 7 minutes and a standard build in 75 minutes for data sets up to 100 megabytes in size. This is pretty fantastic. So that's awesome. AWS Clean Rooms is now available in preview. Clean Rooms. This is a different service. So you can go check this out here. Where you can check out their Clean Rooms preview. We're just going to look over at this here, but a new analysis service that helps customers collaborate with their partners to more easily and securely analyze their collective data sets. So basically, what this is doing, at least my understanding as the 15 minutes that I had to go over it, is that this is going to give you a place to collaborate on shared data. So if you're trying to collaborate with other people on some data, this is giving you a clean room to do it in. And it gives you access to some tools. There was some tools, like some cryptographic tools, I think, for collaborating with people. Collaborate with hundreds of thousands of companies on AWS without sharing or revealing underlying data. So anyways, I think this is actually a really cool thing. I think that this is super. I'm excited about this. This is a way to have big collaborations, and if you can actually hide the data but collaborate with it to help protect your customers' data, I think this is super cool. Super cool. All right, AWS Lambda now supports maximum concurrency for AWS SQLs as an event source. I didn't realize that they didn't support this, to be honest. That may be my bad. But yeah, they do. They do. So that's good. Just a good general update. AWS announces changes to AWS billing. I'm glad that AWS in their release blog talks about themselves in the third person, because this isn't like some other. This is AWS talking about themselves, and they say AWS announces changes to AWS billing. That's like saying Merrick is quite possibly the best YouTuber out there, just undiscovered. Cost management and account console permissions. So basically, this is a big update to AMI for AWS. They added a lot of AMI things for account billing and things like that. Who can see, who can view, who can whatnot, who can see purchase orders and things like that. So if that's interesting to you, you should check it out. And here we have, not quite last, but RDS, Amazon RDS now supports SSL, TLS, certificates, and certificate controls. So this Amazon RDS has new certificate authorities with 40 and a 100-year validity. Whew. That's a, sorry, I just blew into the microphone. I know that's a no-no. I won't do that again. I probably will, but I didn't mean to. Anyways, so that's a very long time. All right, last bit. AWS Nitro Enclaves announces support for multiple enclaves. Now, you know that I'm a huge fan of AWS Nitro. AWS Nitro is their hard drive system that brings the best hard drives in cloud computing. I know you're going to have to take my word for it, because actually testing and improving this is expensive, and I don't personally have the finances to do that. I would love to have the personal finances to do that, and if anybody ever wants, if there's a company out there that would like to sponsor proving that, I would love to and be happy to. Theirs are fantastic. All right. So if you don't know what the AWS Nitro enclaves are, they're the EC2 competitor that enables customers to create isolated compute environments to further protect and securely process highly sensitive data such as personally identifiable information, healthcare, HIPAA, and those types of things. It's a way to isolate your data. Anyways, so that's now on Nitro, which is fantastic. All right. So, interestingly enough, my internet did cut out again. It cut out again. Russell, it worked for so long. It worked all week. Not one hitch, not one problem. And now I go to stream my news, the thing that I wasn't going to do on Linux, but then I felt so comfortable that we had fixed it. It broke again. Okay, well, anyways, let's move on with cloud news. All right. This is going to Cloudflare. So announcing the Magic WAN connector, the easiest on-ramp to your next generation network. All right, so solving today's problems and setting up for tomorrow. All right, so this is giving you basically a WAN in the cloud. So this is kind of interesting. I don't know how big this is going to be. I don't know how powerful it's going to be, but I think it could be powerful. I think that this could help solve something that I'm going to do with Istio. So in the null cloud, what we're going to do is we're going to run a Kubernetes cluster in either Linode or DigitalOcean. I'm going to ask you guys, see what you guys want. And then we also run a Kubernetes cluster locally in my basement. And what happens is we build a network across those two. We kind of create our own private WAN, kind of. It's not the same. And I think this has possibilities to do kind of the same thing. Cloudflare won ping only. So they also released a ping. So you can now ping them. So you can today we're excited to incorporate support for these utilities into our already expansive troubleshooting kit for Cloud 1.0. So basically, you can sign up to get beta access to their ping, and yeah, you can now ping. So, anyways, it's just bringing network utilities to their network. So it's nice. It's a nice thing. I can't see what you're saying. Russell is probably saying something stupid about me loving Python. I probably should get the stream up on my laptop here. I don't know what Russell is saying, but I can probably guarantee you that I disagree with it. Let's see. Let's make sure that's muted. Oh, cool. Linode was the one I was probably going to go with, but we'll see. Okay, I got the stream up. Cool, Russell. I told everybody to ignore what you said, and then you said one thing that I actually would like. I do. I apologize, Russell. I apologize. I told you that I would also make mistakes, and we're based off of how we deal with our mistakes. And I made the mistake of doubting you. I made that mistake. I apologize. Yeah, my network. It's actually my local computer now. Thankfully, I actually stream through another computer that doesn't have this problem, and it has something to do with Asus, Intel, and Intel combined network on Linux. It's very weird, and it's a problem, and we're working on fixing it. So I hope that's a good enough apology. Let's move on. All right, so we have the transfer data from AWS. So we're moving on to GCP. GCP, no, it's GCP. Transfer data from AWS to GCP using Storage Transfer Service. So basically, this is ways to transfer data from AWS S3 to GCS. They're just giving you a way to transfer that over. This is for those people looking to move their already existing stuff out of AWS into GCP. So yeah, if that's you, if you're actually making that transition, it's a little bit easier. All right, week of January 9th to January 13th, there's a couple things here that they did. So they actually have a general availability of Kubernetes 1.26, which blew me out of the water. It's only a month after the release. I did record that video this weekend. I've also started editing it, so it will be released next week. So we'll go over the release notes, which will be fantastic, but they actually got support of it faster. The thing that really caught my eye here was the GPU pods in GKE Autopilot. So originally, Autopilot didn't actually have support. Autopilot is kind of their GKE Autopilot is their really, really simple, really, really dumb Kubernetes service. It strips away a lot of the power, but it also gives you really simple. And I think a lot of people should actually use it. It's probably the best way for teams that aren't Kubernetes teams, that aren't leveraging the API server, that aren't doing those types of things. So I think this is really good. Now you can use GPU pods on it, which means if you wanted to do some machine learning on your Autopilot cluster, if you had a pipeline, if you had something you want to secure, you can actually do that now. So that and the pricing is all based off of the hardware that's available for it. But this is actually a pretty big deal for the Autopilot as machine learning becomes more valuable, it becomes more important. You definitely should be checking that out. Yeah, I think that's actually what I'm going to do. I'm just going to get a discrete NIC for a PCI slot. I'm tired of, yeah, it's dumb. This is dumb. I'm going to write a email to Asus about how I'm a super big YouTuber and I'm going to expose their garbage. And I mean, I already have, but I haven't made a video about it yet. Well, wait till I see how mad I get. All right, let's move on to Microsoft and Azure news. So I say Microsoft and Azure because mostly it's just Azure, but there was one piece of Microsoft news. One piece, just one piece. Guess what it is? It's about Rust. Of course it's about Rust. We have some exciting Rust stuff going on. Modernizing embedded development on Azure Sphere with Rust. That's right. So, Rust and Azure Sphere are a good match, a programming language that can prove safety of code with strict compile time safety checks, alongside Azure Sphere's security, identity, update, and end-to-end encrypted communication services for internet-connected devices should provide greater security for the customer application. Now, I don't know that much about Azure Sphere. Again, Azure is my weakest one, but this does sound pretty cool if it's able to provide these things in conjunction with Rust running on your IoT device. So I'm actually pretty excited about this. Even though I haven't used it, I like this. I like the idea. I like the concept of this. And it's cool to see them bringing some security to IoT devices because I think that's actually one of the problem areas that we suffer in right now. So along that, they also released Azure Automation Visual Studio Code extension. So Azure Automation, from my understanding, is just like, it's like the discrete steps in AWS and the code pipelines and things like that. That's Azure Automation. And they have a Visual Studio Code extension now that's in public preview. So that seems pretty nice. All runbook creation and management operations like editing runbooks, triggering jobs, tracking recent jobs, linking a schedule or webhook, asset management, local debugging, and many more are supported in the extension. So that sounds really, really fantastic, especially like the local debugging, which can be a pain point for some of these cloud things, which honestly, Microsoft has generally done really well. I think Microsoft understands developers really well. If you're looking at like things like Visual Studio Code or even their Cosmos DB, where you could actually run an emulator locally so that you could debug it locally. I really think that if I had to point something out that Azure does well, it's understanding developers. So I love seeing this, even though I don't use this or even understand the full power of Azure Automation. Like, to be fair, I don't, but I just see this every single time I see Azure stuff. I need to use Azure for something. Well, thanks for telling me, Russell, that you won't use Asus this time. Thanks for letting me know. That's fantastic. Should have let me know beforehand. I didn't ask you. It's my fault. All right, general availability of AZAC Snap 7, the Azure Application Consistent Snapshot Tool update. So I know that I talked about this when it was released in December, the Consistent Snapshot Tool. I didn't realize it was the AZAC Snap. That sounds like a band name, to be honest, the AZAC Snap. Or maybe it's a dance move. Actually, we need to make that a dance move now, the AZAC Snap. It should be a dance move, a very nerdy dance move, but it should end with like a snap. Yes, we're gonna work on that at some point. I'm sorry. I had a really productive day yesterday, so I'm in a good mood. I recorded some Rust videos. I recorded my notes, edited some of them, started working on like a be right back animation so that you guys can see something while I'm getting a drink of water while streaming. Very good day. All right. So yeah, that was basically it for AWS or Azure news. Anyways, it brought some really good improvements to it. So NetApp files backup is now out there in preview. The backup integration improvements. Nobody cares about IBM Database 2, shortening of snapshot name. I assume that that's not true, but whatever. It's not the greatest database. We know that. We know what the greatest database is. Restore and test improvements and validation of timeout and timeout improvements. So yeah, anyways, some good improvements to it. All right. We're not done with our cloud news. I'm going to say this is a cloud news. And this is actually, there is one thing I'm going to have to report that I've missed for the last couple of months. And I've wanted to bring it to your all's attention because it's something I have complained about on multiple times. And I've said it's been a short following of GitHub in the past. So it's time for me to come clean, show you that they've supported it for the last like 2 months now, maybe 3 months now. And I didn't show it to you all. Now, before we do that, they actually had a few other things that they released. So we'll talk about those first, and then we'll talk about the travesty that is, I didn't let you know that this existed and you should be using it. First, we'll talk about the introducing required workflows and configuration variables to GitHub Actions. So basically, required workflows in GitHub Actions are now available in public beta. This allows DevOps teams to define and enforce standard CI/CD practices across many source code repositories within an organization without needing to configure each repository individually. This is massive for an enterprise person using GitHub. This allows your team to define a set of scanning tools or a set of best practices for your action pipelines as a whole company. Hey, we want every container built to have this scan done. We want code QL, we want code scanning done on every single project. This gets very tedious very quickly. So now, that being said, I haven't actually used it yet, so I don't know how it's implemented because there's several ways from absolutely unusable to as easy as to use as I couldn't come up with something on the spot. So I'm really excited to see how this pans out and how this works because I think this could be super valuable. The other thing that they released was passwordless deployments to the cloud. So this basically uses JOTS with OpenIDC and lets you deploy to the cloud. It's actually quite fantastic. It's this now works in your GitHub Actions and could really make the whole workflow a whole lot better. So I'm excited about this. I think that this is a huge improvement to them, and I'm excited about that. Now let's talk about what I haven't been telling you guys for the last 2 or 3 months, and I keep forgetting about it. I keep forgetting about it because there's not a news article. It wasn't released in a blog, and while I noticed it, I just never said anything, and I let you all down. Here we go. Big reveal. Fine-grained personal access tokens. That's right. I have raged against the fact that the classic tokens you create and it gives you all godlike power. You were able to like select the things, but you couldn't say read only. You couldn't say things like that. You didn't have any fine-grained control. You said, oh, I want to give them permission to a repository. Bam, whole repository. Wait. I just want to give read only. No, you can't do it. And now they have support for it. It's in beta, but I have used it and it's actually pretty nifty. So like, yeah, you probably should look at it. You probably should use it, play around with it. It is probably the biggest thing that came to it because if you wanted to do read only, the only thing that I could do was create a deploy key, like an SSH deploy key. But the big travesty and the big downfall of something like a deploy key is that it's per repository and it's SSH. And then now you have to manage and rotate keys and whatnot. This is huge, and I'm really happy. I complained once a year on a single post that this didn't exist for the longest of time. I'm going to pretend that it was me and my constant complaining on your behalf. I said my entire community hated the fact that this didn't exist. I didn't actually say that. You don't have to worry about that. Yeah. So, anyways, I'm super happy to see this. Let's read some of the chat. Let's see. How can the DevOps platform engineering teams not automate their way around the lack of that feature? Required workload is a nice feature, but it's not. It's not a showstopper. I'm sorry. I was just saying that it would be really nice. It would be really nice for enterprises, and especially enterprises that have smaller teams that don't have the resources to hire a team to build all of the stuff for the required things. Absolutely not a showstopper. I agree. I think it is a really nice thing to have, though. It's another Azure DevOps feature being brought to GitHub. They will merge eventually. You're probably right. You're probably right. And I've heard really great things about the Azure DevOps. I'm not big on Azure, but I hear really good things about it. So yeah. All right. GitHub had one last thing that I think is important to cover, and you might have even already noticed it subconsciously, in the subconscious, back there. I don't know why I put the subconscious in the back of my mind and not the front of my mind, even though, like, who knows where the I'm not a brain person. All right. A smarter, quieter Dependabot. Okay, so Dependabot could be really, really noisy, and it's less noisy. It's less noisy, and this is a good thing. This is a good thing. This is fantastic. I'm super happy about it. I really do like GitHub. I think they've done some really great things, and putting Dependabot for your open source project for free is really cool. And making it a little bit less talkative is a good quality of life. Good quality of life. All right. All right. That is it for the cloud news. We have some just general software engineering news that I think is interesting. And then we have our Rust projects of the year. So if you're getting into Rust, want to know some of the most important projects to know, stick around. On a bright side, I know there's a lot of doom and gloom about the economy, but there is still investment that's happening. There's still stuff going on. Hack the Box just secured $55 million in Series B funding. Hack the Box is something we play around with every once in a while. Do a live stream every once in a while. Get my butt kicked by hacking, yeah, it's a fun little thing. You know what? Yeah. So this is something, Cooler Master, and I hope more people go this path. If you sell hardware, if your goal is to sell hardware, make your stuff open source. Your goal is to make hardware, and you're going to build a community of people that mod that open source. You're going to build people that are loyal to you because they can make it work really cool with Linux. You know, one of the reasons I hate RGB setups, most of those RGB controllers only work with Windows, and it's dumb. And I also hate it that everybody does it. That's why my computer is matte black, completely matte black, which is hard to get. So I think this is a great first step, and I hope to see other people take the same step. Something. You know what? This should be about our cloud news. I noticed this. kubescape is now accepted as a CNCF sandbox project. Oh, this is kind of cool. I haven't actually used kubescape yet. I've been wanting to look at it, but it is and one of the things that is nice about this being accepted into the CNCF, which means that this company here that created it, Armo relinquished control of the project when it got there. So the base community open source project is now part of the CNCF. Now they have their own Armo platform that you can use that is based off of this kubescape, but you can pretty much depend on the licensing not changing out from underneath you. And this looks like a pretty cool platform because it's a security platform that tries to cover your IDE, CI/CD pipelines, and clusters, which is really important that it's taking the part of each one of those from in the IDE to the CI/CD pipeline, your supply chain, to the active running. It's trying to shift left and right, which is really cool. So anyways, yeah, I haven't used it yet, but I saw it. I thought it was cool. Thought I'd point it out. This didn't make it security because, like, while it's in their security blog, it was basically how Chromium is starting to support Rust in the Chromium project. The Chromium is the open source backend of the Chrome project, and yeah, kubescape looked pretty nice when I looked at it. Yeah. And now it's part of the CNCF, which I think gives it a whole lot of credence that you can depend on it. Not saying that you can't depend on it. Look, and this is not saying that you can't depend on that company, but also if that company doesn't make it, if it goes under, you still know that the CNCF has it as an open source project that is not just going to close its code down and not open source it. You also know that it's not just going to get everybody to depend on this thing and then rip the licensing changes out from under it. And nothing bad about that company. I have no history with that company. I don't know that they would do that, and I'm not saying that they would. I'm saying this is what this move that just happened. It just got accepted into the CNCF, and because of that, that's what it brings to the table for this project. It looks cool. Maybe we'll install it on the null cloud. I think that would be cool. We can definitely do that. Yeah. Anyways, Chromium is written in C++, but now they're adding support for Rust. Why we chose to bring Rust into Chromium, they go into it. The safety, it's a lot around the safety and speeding up development. So yeah. Yeah. So pretty cool. I'm excited about that. All right. This was my engineering blog of the week. Now, I'm not a data scientist, and this guy is a data scientist. So it was pretty cool. He is obviously super Python biased. But he tried to do some stuff in Rust. And I liked it because this guy went into it fully just trying stuff out. He has some pain points that he talks about. Stuff isn't loading on here because my internet's not working, so I'm sorry for the gaps in here. He had pictures. You don't get any pictures with mine. And basically, I think that he has a very fair thing. I agree with him on this. This is why I'm doing the Rust class, because Python's not as hard as a lot of people think it is. People are complaining that Python's hard, and really I find Python pretty easy, especially since it protects you from a lot of stuff. Am I convinced to throw Python to the trash heap? This is what I disagree with. Python should go to the trash heap as a data engineer and switch to Rust. He said he's not convinced, but I actually think he did a really great article. Definitely should go check it out. Data science liking Python, who could have predicted? Yeah, so I think that he did a really fair coverage of it. So I definitely think that it's worth a read, especially if you're just trying to understand Rust now, if you're just getting into it. My classes are going to be great, releasing at least one a week for the first part. Yeah, I think it's a great article. Talking about Rust, though, I have some projects. Some are from you guys, some's from me. Now I'm releasing one of my videos is going to be about projects. So one of my Learning Rust is all about the open source projects that are out there to build your next application. Because I think sometimes it's hard to get into an eco because you don't even know what projects to use. And so part of that is this. And I wanted to get from you guys what ones you guys thought, because maybe I was missing them. So anyways, let's talk about some of them. This is one I really like, Axis Web. It's a powerful, programmatic, and extremely fast web framework for Rust. Yep, it's extremely fast. and I like it. So if you're wanting to build a web project, a web framework, it's blazingly fast, feature-rich, extendable, type-safe. Yeah, it's all the things. Just use it. This is one I tried to use. I tried to use this for the null web. I tried to do the null cloud in U. I failed, and I came to the place where I just wanted a website, and so I'm using React. That's my bad. My bad. It's really cool though. It's really cool, and if you're looking for a front end framework that uses Wasm and doing it in Rust, this is definitely a cool project. Definitely a cool project. It just wasn't for me. I don't know Wasm that well. I don't know front end that well. And then trying to slam all of those things together in one project was a little bit difficult for me. I couldn't get anything to look nice. And admittedly, my website doesn't look nice. You looked worse when I did it. Another project like this is Seed. So this is another web app thing that I just started playing around with. I haven't had as much experience with, but if you're looking for those those reliable web apps, U and Seed are two that are out there. Now we're going to get on to some other things. Tokyo is a really great threading library. Now, there's two different types of threading. We can talk about green threads and native threads. And so Tokyo provides support for really awesome, low-cost green threads, which is really important for things like web servers. Almost every web server uses Tokyo because it's just the best at that. We will cover more about native and green threads in my Rust class, because I think it's an important thing to distinguish what's good at what and when to use which. QuickWit. This was one from the community. Thank you for giving this out. QuickWit is a cloud-native search engine for log management and analysis written in Rust. It is designed to be very cost-effective, easy to operate, and scale to petabytes. Really cool. I haven't actually used it before, but it is Kubernetes native and looks interesting. I heard good things from it from you all, and so yeah, if that's what you're looking for, check it out. Bevy is a just like a nice cool lemonade on a hot summer day, simple data-driven game engine built in Rust. Pretty cool. Should we build a game sometime? You know, sometime if we have nothing else to do, we should build a game in this. Now, it has 2D and 3D renderers, render graph. It looks pretty cool. I haven't actually used it. Looks pretty cool though. Looks pretty cool. So we should probably give it a try. This was also brought by the community. All right, this one was brought by me. I think it wasn't originally by Datadog. I think it got bought, but Vector is a really fast data pipeline. Vector is really fast. It's fast and it has a ton of transforms. It takes all the sources and gives it to all the syncs that you could want. And it allows you to structure the data if it's not structured before coming in. It allows you to do a lot of stuff like this, and it is actually just fantastic. I really, really like it quite a bit. So if that's what you're looking for, or if you're wanting to build something on top of this, check out Vector. How to become a Rust god. You're not going to appreciate my answer. Nobody appreciates my answers, but this is my. If you're wanting to become a demigod at a certain language, this is my personal opinion. If you're wanting to become one of those people, there are 3 things that you have to do. 3 things. You have to first use that language every single day. use it every single day. The next is you have to challenge yourself with it. You can't just write the same web applications. You have to try new things in it every single day. Well, maybe not new things every single day, but you have to try new things. You have to try writing a kernel mod. You'll have to try writing a web app. You try to do a WebAssembly. You need to learn every aspect of it, and you need to get a deep understanding of the ecosystem for it all around. Number 3, you need to go humble yourself and help others. And I think that this is a super important one, because if you think that you're a demigod at a language, if you think that you know more than the most people, you're going to stop learning, and you're going to limit yourself from learning something from somebody that might not know as much as you. I learn stuff from people who know quantitatively less than I do, but have a deeper insight into this one subject. So it really becomes humbling yourself and trying to teach others. If you can teach somebody else something, it means you know it far better than you ever have. Trust me when I say that I know Rust better now after trying to put together a class than I did before doing that. Trying to break something down so simply to make somebody else understand is a hard task and requires a deep understanding of the problem. So humble yourself to learn from others and teach others. A year of doing that, you'll be a demigod at the language, at the framework, at whatever it is that you're looking for. Maybe a couple years, depending on where you start. Buy lots of steel and live by the sea. That's the shortcut. Buy a lot of steel, and then you'll have plenty of Rust. 10,000 hours of practice. Also, I would argue, and I used to be in really good shape. You wouldn't know that after having kids. But I had a coach, and something that has stuck with me is practice does not make perfect. And so I don't say that. And what I tell my kids is perfect practice makes perfect. You have to make sure that you're constantly reflecting on what you're doing and how it's not working and how it could improve. The thing is, if you're practicing the wrong things, the wrong movements, the wrong reflexes, the wrong muscles, the wrong brain thoughts, then you are not actually improving. You're solidifying bad behavior. And what you need to do is constantly being reflective on what you're doing and how it could, and this is partially why I say humble yourself, because I find that the arrogant ones, or when you get arrogant in it, or not even arrogant, but not humbling yourself, it really puts you at a place where you don't reflect as much, because you're like, nah, no, I'm going to disput what they say because they're new, and obviously they've said some wrong things anyhow. They've said some bad things that are obviously not correct, but you can't just dismiss everything, and you got to reflect on what you've done. Have some reflection, some good reflection on making sure that you're practicing good things. So that's I don't know. That's my 2 cents on it. It's yeah. Anyways, thanks everyone. I think that's it for me today. Yeah. I hope I'll see you guys tomorrow. I won't have a new Nick card, so I'll probably still have internet issues, but that will not stop us. We'll have fun. We'll program some. I will buy a Nick card, so I don't have to use this garbage. If you're building a Linux build, don't buy Asus and Intel together. I guess it's Asus motherboards implementing Intel. Just bad scenario. Don't do it. But we'll have fun tomorrow, 10 a.m. Eastern time, or 10:30-ish randomly Eastern time. Have a fantastic week. See you guys next week. Oh, run mod probe. Yep, I'll do that. 1 second. Let's see. Let's see. That didn't work. IBC. Or no, it's IGC. IGC. This So I don't get it because if you do IP ls PCI -K, we can see somewhere up here. IGC is what the Ethernet is using here, the Intel on ASUS. This is the problem for anybody that's wanting to know here. It's Intel on Intel Ethernet controller on ASUS is the problem. Wouldn't have known. And this is IGC. So, anyways, if we run mod probe here on the IGC, it's fine. Now, mod probe -R, I think it is. We can check it. I think it's R to remove. Yeah, we can try to remove the module. And then we can try to reload it with how do we reload? Is it I? I want to say it's I for like insert, but I is ignore. Is there an insert? No, V is not to reload. It's verbose. R is to remove. Wait. How do I? 1 second. I would Google it, but I can't Google it. All right. I need to ask ChatGPT. That's what I need to do. Okay, wait. Consider every non-argument. So we just need to do A. This will be the install. Trust me, it's V. Okay. I will trust you to it's V. Okay. So we'll just do R to remove and then V and then IGC. So every single time I do it with V, it literally just removes it. So we can do ls IPC-K. LSPCI-K, And we'll go up here to the network controller, and you can see it's not actually loaded. See, it doesn't have the kernel driver in use. It's no longer loaded with that. Oh, so you're just saying to do this here. V isn't to load it. It's just for verbose. Okay, I get it. I wanted to do it in one command, but maybe that's... If this works, I'll just make it a script. Maybe I run the script every, 20 minutes. That would interrupt my, internet. It's working. It's working its magic. All right, let's see if it worked. So far... Let's check the PCI. Let's see if it says it's loaded. I don't have internet, and the internet... Maybe I need to reload Network Manager at this point. It's still not saying that it's loaded, the kernel module. I'll play around with this some later today. Anyways, you guys have a good day. I will play around with this some more and poke around. It's not saying that it loaded it for the Intel driver. Maybe I have to restart Network Manager. Anyways. No need to dig into this. Tomorrow we'll have some fun. We're not going to worry about this. I'm going to buy a NIC for this computer, so don't worry. Tomorrow we might have to deal with it some, but it will be okay. It'll be okay. All right. Thanks, everyone. I hope you have a fantastic week. See you next week.